Let's graph h of x first by hand, and then we'll have Desmos graph it so that we can see how accurate our graph is. So first thing we need to do is to find the zeros of h of x. So we will set h of x equal to 0 and set each factor to 0 and solve for x. And so for x minus 3 equals 0, we're going to get x is equal to 3. For x plus 2 equals 0, x is equal to negative 2. X plus 5 equals 0, x is equal to negative 5. And for x minus 1 equals 0, x is equal to 1. And for x plus 4 equals 0, x is equal to negative 4. So these are the zeros of h of x. Now let us find the y-intercept. Or f of 0. Okay, we're not talking about function f, we're talking about function h. So this should be h of 0. So therefore this x minus 3 becomes 0 minus 3, and 0 minus 3 is negative 3. X plus 2 becomes 0 plus 2, which gives us 2. X plus 5 gives us 5. And x minus 1 is going to be 0 minus 1, which gives us negative 1. And x plus 4 becomes 0 plus 4, which gives us positive 4. Then this is equal to negative 3 times 2 is 6, times 5 is negative 30, times negative 1 is positive 30, times 4, positive 120. So this is the y-intercept. So we can plot these points already. So zeros are 3. So we have a 0 here. Negative 2. Negative 5. Positive 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's one more thing. Which one did I forget? So 3, negative 2, negative 5, 1, negative 4. Okay, so we have here the 5 x-intercepts. Now the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 120. So let's see. Maybe 100 is right here. So this is 150. This is 50. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe 120 is about here. That's the y-intercept. Okay, so now we need to know the sine of, okay, maybe I need to make it longer. The sine of h of x in each interval that we will get after we put the x-intercepts on x-axis. So let's put these x-intercepts. So we have negative 5, then negative 4, negative 2, 1, and 3. So now, if this is -5, -4, -2, 1, 3. Hold on, this is 4. Now you want to find out what is the sign of h in each of these interval. So let's pick a number here. Let's say x equals -6. And here x equals, we can use -4.5. And here x equals -3. Here 0 will work. And here x equals 2. Okay, so now, what is the sign of h of x in this interval? So when x is equal to -6, when x is equal to -6, -6 minus 3 is negative, -6 plus 2 is negative, -6 plus 5 is negative, -6 minus 1 is negative, and -6 plus 4 is also negative. So now negative times negative is positive, times negative is negative, times negative is positive, times negative is negative. So here h of x is negative, therefore the graph must be below the x-axis. How about here when x is -4.5? So let's erase this. When x is -4.5, -4.5 minus 3 is negative. Maybe I don't need to put that. So I don't. Okay, so this is negative. -4.5 plus 2 is negative. -4.5 plus 5 is positive. -4.5 minus 1 is negative. And -4.5 plus 4 is negative. So negative times negative is positive, times positive is positive, times negative is negative, times negative is positive. So here, h of x is positive, therefore it has to be above the x-axis. Okay, next interval. When x is -3, -3 minus 3 is negative. Okay, let me just erase this. -3 again, -3 minus 3 is negative, -3 plus 2 is negative, -3 plus 5 is positive, -3 minus 1 is negative, and -3 plus 4 is positive. So now negative times negative is positive, times positive is positive, times negative, that's negative, times positive is negative. So here h of x is negative, therefore it must be below the x-axis. When x equals 0, this is negative. When x equals 0, this is positive. X equals 0, this is positive. When x equals 0, this is negative. And when x equals 0, this is positive. Is that right? Again, when x equals 0, this is negative. 0 plus 2 is positive. 0 plus 5 is positive. 0 minus 1 is negative. And 0 plus 4 is positive. So it's going to be, okay, negative times positive is negative times positive is negative, times negative is positive, times positive is positive. So here, h of x is positive. Therefore, h of x is above the x-axis. Now, when x equals 2, so let me erase this first. When x is equal to 2, 2 minus 3 is negative. 2 plus 2 is positive. 2 plus 5 is positive. 2 minus 1 is positive, and 2 plus 4 is positive. Therefore, if I multiply this 4, I'm going to get positive times negative. That's going to give me a negative number. So that means here h of x is below the x-axis. Okay. So when we sketch our graph, okay, it says in this section, on the left side of -5, the graph is below. So then on the right side of -5, the graph is above. So it's going to cross the x-axis and go to the positive territory. But then it has to reach the highest point and come back to touch 4. And then after 4, on the right side of 4, the graph goes below the x-axis. So the graph will cross x-axis at -4, but it needs to go back up so that it can go through the x-intercept -2. Then on the right side of -2, it says here the graph is above the x-axis. So again, it's going to cross the x-axis to go to the positive territory. And then it has to go closer and closer to the y-intercept because it's going to have to cross the y-axis here. And then come back for the x-intercept 1. Now, here we don't know how high it's going to go. Maybe it will go up like this and then come down to hit that and then go here. So maybe maybe this is more, although we don't really look for the highest point. We just want to make sure that our graph goes through the x-intercepts and the y-intercept. In order to find those maximum point, relative maximum, we will need to find to use calculus. So we'll be happy to just go through the x-intercepts and the y-intercept and show where the graph is, whether it is above or below the x-axis. All right, so here from -2 to 1, we know that the graph is above the x-axis, and that's exactly what we have here in the graph. Now, between 1 and 3, the graph should be below the x-axis. So we're gonna cross the x-axis and go to the negative territory, reach a lowest point, and then come back for 3. And we forgot to put here the sign of h of x on the right side of 3. So here we're going to have x is equal to 4. So if we assign 4 to x, this is going to be 4 minus 3. So that's going to be positive. 4 plus 2 is positive. 4 plus 5 is positive. 4 minus 1 is positive. And 4 plus 4 is positive. So we know that if we multiply 5 positive numbers, we are going to get a positive number. And therefore, the graph should be above the x-axis. And so we can continue sketching our graph. On the right side of 3, the graph should be above the x-axis. So again, it's going to cross the x-axis and go to the positive territory. Now, since there are no more x-intercepts right here, the graph will continue to rise. So it will just keep going up here. And then here on the left side, because -5 is the farthest x-intercept on the left, on this end, the graph will just continue to go down towards the negative infinity. So here's our rough sketch of the graph. So what we're going to do now is sketch, use Desmos to graph it for us and see how our graph compares.